I'm Allison, and this is my dog. And we've moved out of our tiny house, but we still have the even tinier trailer, and we're still traveling the country and taking hikes. But we took a break from the road last year to move into our forever home. And that meant taking about 200 plants with us. So come along for the ride. There's plenty of room in the moving truck and in my new workshop. But I'll warn you, it's gonna get a little loud.
What? We're moving. Well, I have news. We're moving.
Oh, I'm moving.
We're moving now. We're moving tomorrow.
Oh, what have I done?
This is the last night that we will be spending in the tiny house.
Oh no.
We're moving. We're moving.
Oh.
We're moving. We're moving all of our plants.
Oh, we're moving.
Which means I'm moving all of my plants. So we have 3 days to move 140 or so plants. Awesome.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to call this 420 or so square feet home. And as you can see, I made use of every square inch of it. It's time to take on some new adventures and a new project. And just like the house, my time in it was relatively tiny. I moved about 100 plants and cacti in here a couple years ago. This time around, the collection has doubled, but the moving distance has been cut in half. So as far as effort and mileage on a moving trailer goes, it's kind of a wash. So speaking from some experience, my plant packing strategy involves carefully cramming every pot into a tall-sided box to prevent tipping, and then filling in gaps and covering the prickly bits with crinkled up butcher paper. I don't close most of the lids, and those I do close only remain so in transit. It's kind of like a game of Tetris. That is, maybe if Tetris blocks would bite, sting, irritate, and impale if you made the wrong move. Ooh, watch out. This cactus has been dropping spines into the carpet below for me to step on them barefoot every morning. It's really not been a very considerate roommate lately. I also boxed everyone up the night immediately before the move, so nobody was without their grow light for too long. At that point, I had already packed and stored almost every other item I had in the house, so I have lots of room to work. And after 2 years of tiny living, my belongings that aren't plants included pretty much just toiletries and clothes and some cooking implements. I'm proud to say I got everything moved in just 2 trips in this little trailer, and maybe a little help from some friends with trucks with taller ceilings than mine. The first few weeks at home were really messy. Cheers! But there's method to this madness. While in early days I just went ahead and scattered all these pots all over the house, I spent a lot of time observing what kind of light and temperature each part of the house was getting naturally. Then I started rearranging accordingly. So while the tiny house had cactus corners and foliage shelves, my new place has cactus rooms and tropical zones, which is pretty rad. As tempting as it was to go immediately to my garage upon moving in, which is my new indoor gardening space that's full of neat old stuff from previous owners of decades past, I waited for the collection to acclimate to the conditions and for me to find their sweet spot in the house. Then it was time to pot and repot and repot and repot and repot. This lickety-split philodendron is thriving, putting off leaves bigger than my head. Clearly, it's acclimated and ready to plant. It's one of the most aggressive growers I brought into the tiny house, and I've seen mother plants in nurseries with a wingspan of like 10 feet. So I'm really excited to see what it does in its pot with some more breathing room. This Philodendron Congo Rojo has been another really aggressive grower for me. And now that I have more space, I'm going to give it a really big pot and see what it does. My Swiss cheese plant had also grown surprisingly well, given that I put it on a shelf in indirect light above a heater and with my weakest grow light. It's pretty much beat the odds in those conditions and should do a lot better under one of the new skylights. I've got a lot more succulents, bromeliads, Hoyas, and yes, even a pineapple to go. One thing I'm really looking forward to is creating and being able to better control the climates in my house. Clearly, I'm one for variety. Near the top of my to-do list is building a cabinet so I can keep more plants that need high humidity, like begonias and alocasia, and it would provide a better environment for my bromeliads. Also, it just sounds like a fun project. I have to say, one of the mid-range expensive plants in my collection is actually a bit perplexing to me. Not that it's hard to take care of, like most philodendron, it's not a bad grower, but only half of it is developing into the promised pink princess variegated state, while maybe more than half of it is not. It's a nice dark red and green, but it's not $65 nice. So one day I'll get the guts gathered to divide the wheat from the chaff, but for now I'll just gripe about it and keep rotating it on my shelf to expose the nice leaves. If you haven't noticed, I have a thing for dinosaurs. In fact, I often choose to buy the plants that I do because they're really prehistoric looking. I've made a lot of dinosaur planters for myself and for friends by buying hollow kids' toys at novelty shops, cutting them open, drilling holes in the feet, and painting them. have to admit to keeping this flapjack succulent in conditions that really did not provide enough light. It's stretched out and lost its pink edges and most of its leaves. So I'm going to cut it way back, and nice new growth after about a month in better light should start to reappear. If anyone's looking for a good plant for beginners, I always recommend all kinds of snake plants. This particular one has been with me for like 8 years, and I've divided it, gifted it, repotted it, divided it again about as many times. They don't need much light and almost seem to prefer to be forgotten about for the most part. Even in dark corners, they send up nice shoots at a pretty quick pace. I'm gonna go ahead and let you read the label for yourself on this cactus. I don't think I'm allowed to say that here. Anyway, I acquired this cactus at my new local nursery on the day I decided to put an offer on my house. So it has some fond memories attached to it, and in fact, it's been my most aggressively growing cactus I've had in a while. And it's had some interesting growth. Another pricey, but this time very delightfully developing plant I absolutely cherish is this Monstera dubia in a piece of my favorite pottery. It's grown so aggressively, I've added more than 18 inches of moss pole for it to wrap around in the months I've had it in a medium light, and the roots have grown through the bottom of its plastic pot. Clearly, this is where it wants to live, so it's time to literally cut it out of the pot it's been acclimating in and let her be free. Another cactus succulent thing whose name greatly amuses me is this sausage tree. That's it. That's all I have to say about this one. While I do not live in a climate anywhere close to representing Florida, this philodendron Florida beauty somehow has loved every climate I've put it in. I don't know what I did to deserve this, but the thing like 6 months ago was 2 leaves in a 4-inch pot on a sale rack, and now I'm having to plan somewhere else to put it where it won't hit my ceiling. Now here's a diva, my Begonia amphioxus, in all of her clowny charisma, is the most delicate plant I've ever worked with that I haven't yet killed.
Hey.
Somehow this thing lived through the move, but it was looking really bleak there for a while. The 1-hour drive to our new home and one day without its grow light and acrylic box made it drop almost every single one of its leaves. After a rescue operation, she's bouncing back and is now thriving again in a bigger box in a cool corner under her light. I can run, but I can't hide from the kinds of pests that keep coming in on cacti. Having cacti in a cool climate is a recipe for pests, and I'm paying for it. I've meticulously scrubbed with various natural and unnatural pesticides almost every square inch of every succulent creature in this house more than once, and I'm only just getting the mealybugs, thrips, and spider mites under control. Not eradicated, but under control. Now, I haven't totally resisted purchasing the giant plants from my wildest, most impractical tiny home dreams. I've indulged in one fun-sized piece of foliage. If you don't need a ladder to do maintenance, is it even considered a big plant? I really, really love this jade plant, and I've had it for like 8 years. But it's become a favorite also of the present infestation and has required the most care and hand removal of bugs. They've literally chewed through some of its branches. This baby is going in a room by itself for the next few months to see if I can't rescue it, but my hopes are pretty low. Well, we're back at it again today. I really thought we'd be done by now, but here we are like 3 months into the move, and after tons of plants nearly dying, I've almost saved them all. We're gonna take care of some more pests, and then I think we're what? I don't know, Lucy. I just don't know. Well, I'm gonna start a fire and get this over with. I'm coming into the home stretch of getting all my prickly pets into their forever pots, but there's one big problem I've been procrastinating on. One cutting of my candelabra cactus is donezo, so I'm going to finally take this monstrosity, a friend of mine once lovingly named Mittens, out of its plastic and separate it from this dead weight. But while I was doing that, I was rudely interrupted. And I don't mean by Lucy this time. So I have some clues as to the source of the blast yesterday. On top of the stove, this looks to me like a sticker you find on a lighter. No. Contains flammable gas under pressure. Never store above 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, that could have been a problem. Then I notice piece of a lighter. And you know what? I'm missing a gray lighter. Same gray lighter I used to start this fire. Shrapnel. Gray shrapnel. I am 99.9% certain that's what happened. I lit the fire, put the lighter on top here, but I think I put the lighter up here and it got knocked down onto this hot surface and exploded. That makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna call this mystery solved. Well, anyway, back to work. It turns out the kitchen scissors I picked out for this job just weren't up to the toughening skin of an aging cactus, so I gave a go with the rusty garden loppers I found after I moved in. Those were much more suited to the task. So after I used all of my cactus dirt mix on this big boy, it also needed a pesticide bath. And to pass the sniff test. So the next time I'll see you with another armful of plants, I'll show you some of the more permanent accommodations I've arranged for my prized collection. And while my purchases are actually slowing down in anticipation of my doing a lot more outdoor gardening, I once again have more additions to the family I'll need to pot. And of course, still my fair share of pests to clean up.
Why are you like this?
That's gonna be hard to clean.